Hear it, and see it when you want it. On demand, audio and video at 630wpro.com.
You can't be in this house without seeing everything about your wife who passed a few months ago, Pat. She's everywhere. It's really her spirit in this house. I'm sure it's a loss to you.
It's a tremendous loss, but I made a determination from day one that she would continue to have a strong presence in the house. As you can see, we have her pictures all over the place. I have quite a few upstairs in our bedroom, but I particularly want the grandchildren, the younger ones who were here. The whole family was here the evening that she died, but I want them to remember her also the way she was before she was sick, because some of the younger grandchildren only remember her as a person for the last few years had lost the ability to speak towards the end, no movement, and needed help to do anything. But we would show film clips or these other pictures of trips we used to take, so they would know that their grandmother was a very vibrant person and boundless energy. And she never ran out of steam. It would seem that she could juggle a lot of things, both on the home front and helping out at Amos' house. I know she used to tell the kids, her birthday was on December 18th, and she would tell the kids, for my birthday present, volunteer some time down at Amos' house for their holiday events or whatever. And
she started the first women's shelter, did she not? She had something.
Yes, she was on the board of the first women's shelter. Yes.
She went through the ringer, trying to get pension, trying to get any kind of and you know, you did plead guilty.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, the Supreme Court overturned the Judge Rogers' decision that she wasn't entitled to money.
So did she ever get it?
No, and they referred it back for a rehearing. That was, she was well into her sickness at that time, and neurologically it would have been cruel to put her up on the stand. And, I mean, she was having speech difficulties, personality difficulties. We didn't know yet we knew she had something bad, but the actual diagnosis had not come out. And I remember talking to Thomas and Dennis about it, and I said, in Mom's condition, even in spite of that court decision that she would be entitled to something, I said, I can't make her do that again. They all agreed.
There was a lot said about that she was really being dragged through the mud, and you know, it had nothing to do with her. It was her husband and her son, and why is she begging for the money?
Because the law says an innocent spouse is entitled, is entitled to request, you demonstrate a need for it, and the law provides that she could receive a portion of my pension, all or a portion, as determined by the Superior Court judge.
What's a day in the life for Governor DiPrete today?
Well, prior to the death of my wife, which was July 28th, I spent a good part of my daytime with the caregivers, taking care of Pat, coordinating her doctor's appointments, filling her medicine tray on Sundays, and trying to make her life as high a quality life as possible. We knew it was going to be a degenerative downhill thing, and she had her mind was very good, and we wanted to let her enjoy whatever she could. Since her death, there was kind of an interim period where getting adjusting to it. Myself, my kids, the grandchildren. I visit with the family quite a bit, and when I want to get some paperwork done, pay bills and just catch up in the mail, I usually go to my son Dennis's office. He has an engineering business in Cranston, maybe 5 or 10 minutes from here. I don't go there quite as much as I used to, because with the house quiet, now I'm able to do it here. But I remember getting a phone call from Colonel Culhane, who just prior to that, I short died after many years of good service. And Colonel Culhane told me he was very uneasy about the situation at Heritage, that he felt the state police presence was warranted in there. And people at Heritage, RISDIC, and it would seem to me from other state agencies who were telling the colonel, no, we don't need a state police presence. And I said, Colonel, what's your recommendation? That you order me, because he said, you're the only one who can order me to put state police in there. I said, I so order you, bring as many people there as you have to, and whatever overtime is involved, we'll work it into the budget.
Well, then Malacone takes off shortly after that, disappears. Now we're starting to see.
He may have even taken off
before that. But then they start to really realize how much money is.
The colonel was very concerned about what was coming in and out of the bank. Nobody really knew at that point. And in fact, Governor Sunland, and this is in front of 20 witnesses, Governor Sunland said to me, Governor DiPrete, why don't you say that's the right thing to do? And I said, I don't think we should just do that out of the blue. And Bill Seidman, who knew the governor-elect on a first-name basis, he said, no, Bruce. He says, you never close a financial institution unless you say, and here is our plan, our program to solve that crisis. He said, if you don't have that plan ready, you'll have people rioting in the streets, lining up at your door, demonstrating. And in his inauguration speech, he announced the closing of the credit union. We did develop a plan with some input from the incoming administration, but most of it from financial lawyers in Providence and Merrill Lynch and my own staff.
Do you think Governor Sunland made the wrong choice, made a mistake?
Well, I would not have closed credit unions on that day, and because the plan was delivered to him just prior to the inauguration, prior to his taking the office, giving him, we thought, a reasonable period of time to tweak it his way, so to speak. But that plan, the people who drew it up said that plan would have immediately reopened the solid credit unions. They divided them into three groups. Those that would qualify for federal insurance would not be a problem. Those that you might say would be questionable, or like wait list, and then those that definitely would not qualify, and they would be out of business, but they would be taken over. Their deposits and liabilities would be taken over.
Tough situation for Governor Sunland, though, because he was sort of an outsider business type guy, where you're the sitting governor, and people might have thought, well, this was under your watch. Yeah,
but he had another week. Mr. Seidman said 3 weeks of a reasonable period of time, and that plan was a good one. And in fact, I would say several months down the pipe, and when they got to see the plan, which wasn't on inauguration day, they thought that really was the basis of solving the problem. Governor Sunland, I think, wanted to close it on inauguration day. I think he wanted me to close it so he could say, well, when I took office they were closed, so don't blame me. And I wasn't about to do that without the plan that the chairman of FDIC said you should have before announcing the closing.
You feel that your administration took any responsibility for the lead up to the banking crisis, not knowing exactly what was going on?
Well, the Department of Business Regulations sent auditors around, but some of the credit unions obviously were able to, like Heritage, they were able to hide their liabilities. The books, what the book said, wasn't what was in the vault, so to speak. I left office, December 31st of 1990. Jim O'Neill was the Attorney General for the next 2 years. I think if Jim O'Neill saw something wrong, as distasteful as it would have been for him, he would have taken legal action against me and my son, because that was his sworn duty. He left office after 2 years, or maybe more than 2 years, of this investigation going on, and obviously didn't see anything that warranted the charges that Jeffrey Pine came up with.
Do you think he was doing you a favor?
No, he wasn't doing me a favor. I don't. He had the sworn duty as Attorney General, and we're courteous to each other when we see each other. We're not social friends, or with different political parties.
The then Attorney General O'Neill didn't see a case against you.
Obviously, or he would have. After 2 years, you know pretty well whether there's fire someplace after you've looked at it for that long.
And Jeff Pine is the up and coming, and he was a quite a big time attorney, and he's coming into the Attorney General's office. Was it a career move for him to go after you?
I think he thought it was going to be that way, and there were so many mistakes and lies that came out of the office while he was the Attorney General. In fact, Judge Borsier, in his dissent from a Supreme Court decision, the charges had been dismissed by Judge Cresto when he saw the
Against you.
in Dennis and my son. He said that egregious prosecutorial misconduct, and it got down. Now Pine was hiding evidence, not telling us things, and this is all, by the way, on the record in the Supreme Court decision. Judge Borsier said that criminal activity, no, how did he put it? Activity had occurred at the highest levels of the Attorney General's office, and that activity could be deemed criminal.
It was called a hide and seek game too at one point.
Yeah, I mean, we had, that's what drove us broke, frankly, and that's why I took the plea to it, and I said so at the time. I was taking the plea for two reasons, to end further expense and further risk to my son and myself, because Bob Popio, who was one of the lead lawyers, had withdrawn from the case because we owed him so much money. His firm didn't withdraw, but he personally withdrew because the bills were just extremely high.
How much are we talking about?
At that time, Popio said he was owed about $3 million. He might as well have said $300 billion. I mean, that's why I took the plea, because there's Egbert said to me, given the fact that you people are not able to continue this thing to trial, the cost would be enormous. I think on his side alone was going to be like $800,000, and Mintz-Levin would be well beyond that, and that just wasn't in the cards. We didn't have it. I knew the facts better than anything else. And when Richard Egbert asked me certain questions, he said, well, if you're telling me the truth, you're an innocent man. That's your whole case.
Indeed. So why would you plead guilty? Why not let your son, if in fact he did or didn't do anything wrong, if you think he didn't do anything wrong, let him go through the process?
Because the expense and risk involved to both families.
What did it take for you to walk in there and say, guilty?
I didn't like it one bit. I told Egbert that. I said, I'm going in there. Actually, I'd be lying to the court.
Did you think your son was guilty of anything?
No. When you're dealing with things that are unknown, and keeping in mind, we had expended everything we had. I cashed in savings bonds that had been bought for payroll deduction, borrowed from banks, and I'm sure my son did also. Short of selling my home, I had no place to go for more money to pay the attorneys involved.
It's hard to believe you wouldn't take your own son aside and say, did you do this?
Because that's exactly, I'd be going against the advice of Bob Popio, because I don't know what the answer is. And Dennis to me was a professional engineer, brought up on good standards. His circle of friends was very good then, and it's very good now. And I can't picture him doing anything that would be illegal, improper, or unethical to raise funds. Now, somebody might allege he did, but I didn't want to get in a you said, he said situation when he didn't have facts.
Is it that you just didn't want to believe it? Your own son?
I don't believe he did anything improper. He was on our re-election committee. That's nothing wrong with that. Some people were running for the tall grass at that time, and I appreciated getting his help. And this was a situation that he was partly in trouble because he was trying to help his father. And let's not forget that.
Explain that. Why would he be in trouble for helping you?
Well, he's being accused of things that he not agreed to work on my campaign committee. He would be making a good living in Massachusetts or New Hampshire or someplace else, or in Rhode Island. He also was doing work in Rhode Island. But because he agreed to help out on fundraising with several other people, he wasn't the only one. He was the one they went after because he was my son.
Do you think it was a goal of Jeff Pine to make a name for himself? He goes after the governor, drags the kid in as well?
Absolutely. I think Jeff Pine thought if he could get me and or my son behind bars, that would set up the groundwork, so to speak, for him to run for higher office. didn't work out that way. I had to make the decision to make a sacrifice to bring this thing to closure. I mean, we couldn't go on forever. It took money and risk to go further, and it was time to bring it to closure.
Did your son ever apologize for anything?
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure he had anything to apologize for. He expressed appreciation several times, and I remember his wife sent me a very warm note thanking me for the sacrifice that I was making on behalf of her family, because she knew that if I said, yeah, I did these things, charges against him were going to be dropped and his life could go on. I think a lot of people could see what was going on. And people I talk to even today who were involved, let's say, on the prosecution side, told me, we were sorry to see you take that plea. The state did not have a case against you.
Were you ever at a time saying, I made the wrong choice?
No, because I don't know what the alternative would have been. Nobody does.